Hello, Christian patriots, and welcome to Church and State, where we strive to plug you into the pew and plug you into politics. I'm your host, Caleb Collier. With me, again, Pastor Gabe Blomgren.
Run into the battle, baby.
Amen.
Let's do it.
Yeah, so let's get right into the show. I had the opportunity to meet an individual through some phone calls who has a really interesting and compelling story to be telling. And as soon as I started talking with her and hearing this extremely tragic story, I knew that I had to bring her on to the radio show. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and introduce Karen Anderson. Karen, thank you so much for joining Church and State.
Oh, you're welcome. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So why don't you just go ahead and give us an introduction to yourself and then why you became an activist, what happened to your son?
Well, I am the mother of 3 boys, and on December 30th, on 2005, my middle son, Mark, was killed at a construction site in Federal Way, Washington. And I've been a patriot all my life, and I wasn't real aware of the situation with the illegals coming into our country, but until this happened. The long story short, and I have all kinds of letters, statements from political officials, statements from government officials, but the fact of the matter is the person who hired the illegal, which was the reason my son was killed, got away with everything, and everybody covered it up. We got the phone call December 30th, and he was the father of 3 little boys, and his 4th little son was born January 1st, 2 days after his death. So I have been compelled to fight this illegal situation in our country ever since. I've been on several radio stations. I've interviewed with politicians, and all I can say is it's really sad because everyone is protecting and defending the illegals.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. We do see that, there's this rise in sanctuary cities and states now even where they're protecting the illegal immigrant more than American citizens. And as I was speaking to you about this accident, it from what you were telling me, it sounded like the immigrant here didn't speak any English, was not aware that he was doing the job wrong, had placed in the wrong bolt, I believe is what you said, and ultimately resulted in a wall crashing down and killing your son.
Yes.
And so, and then the 3 individuals, from what I understand, that were at the site, none of them spoke English. As they were interviewed by the police and what occurred, none of them were aware that they had done anything in the situation.
Well, they were aware, and when the wall came crashing down, there's a little bit more even than that. The owner of the construction company hired 3 illegal aliens, and obviously they were illegal because the person that put the wrong eye bolt in, his name was on a social security number with 17 other names on the same social security number.
Wow.
So, it's just, anyway, so he, when the wall fell on my son, it bent him over frontwards, and he was over 6 foot tall. So it just basically bent him in half. And he was laying under that wall and, begging people to get it off. And he knew that he was, and I was told that later by a friend of his. He knew he was dying. He knew that his 4th little son was going to be born anytime. And all he could think about was get this wall off of me. And the wall weighed 2,000 pounds. And the eye bolt that the illegal bought and put in the wall was only rated for 90 pounds.
Jeez.
And can I say names like the name of the construction owner and the name of the job foreman?
I don't see that would be a problem at all.
because I did before.
Okay.
um, um, Bart Nelson was the owner of the company, and they were building a dental complex in Federal Way, Washington. And Joe Ross was the job foreman. And Joe Ross was a known alcoholic. As a matter of fact, he had one of those, what do you call them, those little, you had to blow
Oh,
into it on the
oh,
steering wheel.
breathalyzer. Oh, yeah. Okay.
Exactly. Uh, to my knowledge, no one if he was even drunk when that accident happened. But in his statement, he said that he was on the forklift down below and he had a strap around the wall and was starting to pull the wall up while the men were underneath the wall, kind of pushing it, helping the wall to go up. Well, he said in his statement that he noticed there was only one eye bolt in the wall, and normally a wall that size they put two in, but he decided to just go ahead and go with the one. Well, he didn't even know. No one bothered to check that the eye bolt was only rated for 90 pounds. So as soon as he started pulling that strap up to get the wall to start coming up, and the guys were underneath it pushing it to help, um, the eye bolt just crumbled, and the wall went crashing down. Now, the statements, I've got all the statements. The statements of all three of the illegals involved were written in Spanish. You couldn't even read them. And it's just incredible. And, you know, I hate to jump ahead on this, but I asked the labor and industry, they closed the job site down for a month to investigate. And I have to say, the labor and industry investigator was just a sweetheart. He was really a good guy. And he told me several times, he said, Karen, he said, I don't know what to tell you, but he said this should never have happened. And he explained to me exactly what happened. And I asked him, well, are you guys reporting this? Is labor and industry reporting that this accident was negligent homicide? And he said, we can't. And I said, why? Why can't you tell them that it was an illegal that didn't even know what he was doing is the reason my son is dead? That's negligent homicide. And he said, because that's called profiling. So they protected the person that put the eye bolt in. Anyway, and then I asked the Federal Way police officer who was at the scene and investigated. And I said, he claimed it was an accident, which, you know, it was. The illegal didn't know what he was doing. Realistically, that part of it wasn't his fault. I blamed the job owner and the foreman. But anyway, I asked the Federal Way police officer if he was going to file negligent homicide. And he said, no. He said, it was an accident. And he said, actually, the illegal isn't, you know, he didn't kill your son. The wall did. And I have to tell you, I probably shouldn't be saying this, but if I had been over there, I probably would have ended up in jail after that police officer told me that. That did it. So there's just so much cover up. And I talked to Kathy McMorris. I talked to Joel Kretz. I talked to Shelley Short, and in their office here in Omak at that time. And they were all horrified. They all said they were going to do whatever they could. But no one got anywhere. And I realize now why. Because back then in 2005, when this happened, that was the start of big business wanting the illegal to our country for cheap labor. And the government was actually protecting them. And it just amazes me to this day. So my oldest boy is raising his two youngest sons. And my youngest son, he and Mark, my son who was killed, they used to have a construction company together.
Okay, you had said that they actually had announced that they were going into business
yes.
right at Christmas, correct?
Yes. Mark and Brandy, his fiance, called us that Christmas, December 2005, and we had a big speakerphone, and we were all talking to them, and they were so excited, and they wanted to come over for Christmas, but the doctor wouldn't allow Brandy to come over because she was too far along and could have the baby anytime.
Yeah. So you went from at Christmas time. He's starting a new business venture.
Yep,
He's about to have his fourth child. Looking forward to that. And then
yep,
just a few short days later, everything is
yeah,
taken from
yeah,
you, from his wife, from his children, from his brother.
yeah,
Now you were
yeah.
telling me some stories, and I hope you don't mind me sharing this, and I'm gonna give the mic to you in just a second here. But you were telling me some stories that I think the audience should actually hear because they need to understand this tragedy. They need to feel what you've felt, what you experienced, what your family experienced in this case. You had said that your other son, who they had such a special relationship with, and they were going into
Yeah,
business together, that
yeah,
they
my
they
youngest.
yeah, that they both loved the certain type of music. Will you go
Yes,
ahead and share that story with my audience as well?
probably break down. It doesn't make any difference how long ago it happened. It just it affects the whole family. Any instant, we can cry. But um, my youngest son and Mark, they were going to open a construction company over here when Mark and Brandy had the baby moved over here. Well, I have a picture of my youngest son and leaning over the head of Mark's casket, and his head is laying on the casket, and he's bent over. The casket's closed, and my son is laying his head and it's kind of his chest on it with his arms wrapped around the casket, and he has a little tape recorder on the top, and he told me that he was going to share the music and listen to the music with his brother one last time. So he was playing the music that him and Mark used to love to listen to. And it just broke my heart. I took the picture, but it just broke my heart. And then Brandy, she had the baby 2 days after he died. And we had an open casket just for family members only. And it was a private room. And I was in the room when Brandy went in to see Mark. And she was carrying the little tiny baby, just a couple days old. And the casket was open, and Brandy walked up, and she held the baby up, and she says, "Mark, here's our little boy." And I took that picture. And I was going to post those two pictures just to give you an idea of how devastating things like this are. I mean, it's devastating when anyone loses a child. I'm sure some of your audience have, and they can understand. But when you realize that the government is protecting the reason why your son was killed and why the family no longer has him and his four sons don't have a dad anymore, and Christmas has never been the same. We go through the motions now, but because of the kids, but it's never the same. It just, I don't know. So, it's really frustrating to me that the government is getting away with this. I'm just livid, and I've kind of let this go so that I can be grandma and mom and great grandma. But it's all coming back again with what's going on in our country now. And a man in the corporate office of the labor and industry, he called me one day and he said, "Karen," he said, I'm going to tell you this. He said, "I'll deny it if you tell anyone my name." But he said, "You have no idea what's going on in this country." And he said, "You need to just walk away and leave it alone." And I thought, no, I will not do that. And I've been on several radio stations, and I've written so many letters. And there's one letter. If I could just read a short, brief letter. I don't know how much time we
No,
have.
no, we are good on time. I did just want to interject, and
Okay.
I wanted to say that is a hallmark of a patriot. Somebody who, when told by the government bureaucracy, just walk away. This is bigger than you are. That they say
Yeah.
no, I will not
Yeah.
walk away. And
Yeah.
really, Gabe and I have talked about this a number of times. That mama bear.
Mhm.
Yeah, that mama bear.
Yeah,
When a mom gets active, there's
yeah.
nothing more dangerous to the
Look
government.
out.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. So go ahead and read that letter.
Well, I sent a letter to the U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, and in the letter, I sent them the names of the name of the illegal involved. I sent the social security number with the name of the other 16 names on the same social security number. I sent um, the copies of the statements that you couldn't read, and I gave them the business owner's name. I gave him the job foreman's name, and I sent a picture of the eye bolt, and this is the letter that I got back. Now, I sent this all in on April of 2008. So you can see I was working on this a long time. Anyway, I said not long ago, I went through the process of requesting the outcome of an investigation of my son's death. I sent you a packet of information describing some details of his death. I gave you the names of all who were involved with his death. I also gave you the name of the man directly involved in placing the wrong eye bolt into the wall. With his name, I gave you all the other names on the same social security number. I consider your response the typical slap in the face from my government we Americans are experiencing today. I'm not as stupid as you may hope. How dare you tell me you have determined that the privacy interest in the identities of individuals in the records I have requested clearly outweigh any minimal public interest in disclosure of the information? I said, who in the heck do you think I am? Minimal public? I am the mother of an American who went to work one morning, a father of three little boys, who was killed by a person whose name appears along with 17 other names on the same social security number. 2 days after he was killed, his fourth little son was born. You think you can sweep the illegal issue under the rug and Americans will let it go? We won't. People like me are going to be your worst nightmare. How dare you protect the employer and the illegals involved in my son's death? It is a federal crime to use a false social security number. I realize that a lot of your welfare offices are getting around this by using illegal I-10 forms, which I might point out is also illegal. You and your department are a joke and another waste of the taxpayer's dollar. You have not heard the last of me. I am going to tell the American people how and to what extent you will go to protect an illegal person here in our country, even in the face of an American's death. Have a good day. And then I sign my name.
Well, it's a spot on letter,
Yeah,
and
yeah. You just can't imagine the anger that brings out, along with um, all the sadness.
yeah, I can imagine. Yeah. Now, it's amazing because this happened all the way back in 2005, and it's
Hmm.
just as relevant today as it was when it happened. You're
Oh
still
yeah,
seeing this huge push to protect legal immigration. You're seeing
yeah,
plans to usher in a North American Union where we're going to combine with Mexico and with Canada and the United States to form a European Union version of it. You're
yeah,
seeing things like the USMCA, which is a trade agreement to bring in multiple illegal immigrants to where corporations are able to bring in as many as they see fit. That was in one of the chapters in the
Right.
USMCA. So, yeah, this is extremely relevant. And yours, unfortunately, is a tragic case, a tragic example of what can occur when you have a bureaucracy that is protecting individuals who should not be here. They were committing felonies, and yet they were
yeah.
still allowed to reside and to work in these United States.
Look at how we've progressed, though. Um, they were. I have all these statements and everything that I've looked up, and they were definitely committing felonies. The people who hired them, the people who police officers should have reported it. I called King County prosecutor department and told them about it, and they said, "Well, no, we can't file anything unless the police reports that it was a, you know, a negligent homicide. It's just down as an accident." So no matter what I did, they all protected one another.
Yeah.
And it just and you stop and think, this was back in 2005, and
Is this
I
company
spent
still in business, Karen?
I have no idea. I have tried to look his name up to find out where he is.
What's the name of the construction company? If you do, or do you just know the owner?
Just well, basically just the owner now. I
Yeah,
can't
he probably
remember.
changed. Honestly, they would probably
Yeah,
change it
yeah. Well,
after some
Yeah.
accident like that.
what I was told by Labor and Industry, he said he has to shut that company down, but he can walk across the street and reopen
Start
another
another
one
one.
in a different name.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
That seems to be kind of what they do. You
but
know. Oh, go ahead.
what I was thinking, think of the cover up back then in 2005, and look where we're at today. Look at the politicians today. We are even hiring
Oh yeah.
people from foreign countries to run our government,
Hmm.
and Pelosi and all the things that the politicians are doing today to protect illegals in the sanctuary cities, and now Washington State is a sanctuary state. I can't believe this. I went to a Republican meet and greet last month here, and I talked to and kind of briefly told my story to um, Freed, I believe that was his last name, and also let's see, a couple others. I don't remember their names, but they are also running for office this election. And Freed was running for governor, and I explained to him the story. Oh, also, I didn't talk to him about this, but I talked to these people about this, and I got a card from one of the men who is running for attorney general. I said, something has to happen. I said, we cannot allow this sanctuary city. And now I'm being very polite. I could use a lot worse language.
Well, we appreciate you not on the American Christian Network. Thank you.
I know. And I said, we really need to do something about this. We need to really do something. And they agreed. And they said, we've had it with this too. And we've got to get the Democrats out of our government. We have to get them out of this state. They've been running the state forever. And so hopefully, if this story gets around, if nothing else, please, people, realize that the Republicans don't want this anymore. We want America back. We want Americans protected, not the illegals. And I'm not saying that the illegals are bad people, because I know some of them who are really nice people, some Hispanics. But the fact that they are working when they don't understand what they're doing, people are hiring them when they don't understand what they're doing. This is different than going out and getting in a car and being drunk and killing people, which many of the illegals are doing. But this is something that involves people who are at work. You're not safe. And we have to do something about this.
Well, and the industry standards as well. That's something to point out here. With what the United States has with their industry standards and how things are to be built, they don't compare to some of these third world countries where
Yeah.
anything goes really. And so these individuals that are coming from these countries, they're not used to how our practices for building these walls and whatnot are,
Yeah.
and they're
Yeah.
willing to just go out and do whatever it is to just get the job done. And if it fails, there's no lawsuits that happen in these third world countries. So that's kind of the mentality that you're dealing with in hiring these individuals. And I understand that it's cheap labor for these people, but really they should be more interested in number one, protecting American lives, and also that standard. That building standard, like when I put my name on this company, when I'm building this product, you can count
Hmm.
on the fact that this is the highest quality product that I can possibly produce.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's and no one checked the eye bolt. I heard two stories. I heard one that he picked it out of a box that they had there. They had a bunch of eye bolts. The other story I heard was that Bart Nelson had sent him to Home Depot to get the eye bolt. So he went to Home Depot, bought the eye bolt, came back and put it in, and no one bothered to check to look to see if the eye bolt was the right one.
Well, if I
It's
suspect
just
if he couldn't speak English, I suspect he couldn't read English,
no,
and so
yeah,
sending somebody to Home Depot to grab an eye bolt, all
yeah,
he's doing is he's walking in and he's looking for a specific item. He doesn't know what the ratings are. I've been in Home Depot. There's bins and bins of different products, and so he's just
yeah,
grabbing one out of a bin and going. He has no
yeah.
idea what he's actually purchasing and what the weight is and what it's recommended for.
Yeah, and then you take the job foreman, who's no known alcoholic, and he's sitting there admitting in his statement that I have that normally they put two in a wall this size,
Hmm.
and he went ahead and went with it with the one eye bolt, but he didn't even check the eye bolt. No one checked it,
Yeah.
and I have to tell you this. This is just something else. My birthday is in January.
Mm.
Now this happened December 30th. And on my birthday, I went to the P.O. box to get my mail because I knew my mom and dad sent birthday cards. And in the P.O. box, it said that I had a package. And I went up to the counter and got the package and got home and opened it. And it was all the clothes that Mark was wearing that they cut off of
Oh my
him,
gosh.
his shoes, his safety strap that he was wearing that they cut off, um, and the eye bolt.
Wow.
Are you
So,
actually
yeah,
had the eye bolt?
Wow. That
yeah,
is incredible.
yeah, yeah.
Karen,
Labor and Industry sent me all that.
I hate to interrupt, but we're coming down to the very end of the show. You got about 10 seconds left here. Was there
Okay.
one last thing you'd like to say?
Just you guys, people out there, help us fight this.
Amen.
Don't allow this to keep going.
Yeah, that's good. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining Church and State. We really appreciate, and we are with you. Sorry,
Oh,
we're so sorry for what occurred. So, all right.
thank you.
Church and State is brought to you in part by Covenant Church. Always remember the tree of liberty is most likely a birch. And with that, Church and State is out.
God bless.